So what's all this drama going on around Jez Corden and his claim that PlayStation was going to be pulling back its development of its games from PC because of the new Steam box and the new Steam machine and the new Steam Deck and the new Steam VR? Ladies and gentlemen, you have to realize that right after the Steam Deck launched and many different versions, PlayStation still kept putting games on Steam. The Steam machine is not going to stop PlayStation from doing whatever they feel they need to do. If let me just go ahead and spoil a lot of things before I get into this, commentary, because a lot of people they are misconceived about this whole issue. If PlayStation needs Xbox, they'll go to Xbox and drop a game there. Not just one have they dropped with Helldivers 2. They put their name on that one. MLB The Show. Oh, wait. MLB wanted it. But Lin Tao is like, oh, yeah. It's making about 40% of our, IP revenue sales across the board. So MLB knows what's good for PlayStation. That right there is a t-shirt. MLB knows what's best. If they want to go to Steam or PC, they will. And what is the catalyst for them actually going to these other places? I'm going to put it as 27. What is the catalyst for them going to these different platforms? You guys on PlayStation, you're not buying these games to the cadence that they would love for you to buy these games. Let's say you had satiated them like Nintendo fans satiate Nintendo. They would have no need to go anywhere. What you're seeing is corporate loyalty, which is one that only is concerned with the wallet of the corpo. That's it. Anything else, Nah, you're not. Stop it.
Irvin, you're saying all Jez wanted was to get your attention and he succeeded? Perhaps. I mean, see, that's the thing, though, is like bringing up Jez Corden. Like, I know, like, a lot. Like, dude, if you go check those Reddit posts, I mean, he's getting fucking torn to shreds. And I've never had a problem with Jez Corden, and I still don't. Like, I've always, how I viewed him, and this is where I realized, like, I have to have a different view now. I have no choice. I always viewed Jez Corden as somebody who is he has sources, and, like, he is a potentially good source, at least this is how I felt, of certain information. Like, if...
Was that whole tweet thing not taken out of context? I might have to abandon what MBG is saying here. I think I bookmarked something here from the Gaming Ledger. This individual, man, I corrected this individual, and boy, they went haywire. Like, they lost. I have not seen a reaction like that before. I ended up muting them for a while because they were just spazzing out, and people were kind of shocked. Like, what is this behavior? This conversation here, he says, this take by Jez is completely out of context because he's treating Sony like it's supposed to follow Xbox's strategy. That's the core mistake. Huh? Sony and Microsoft don't operate under the same incentives, business models, or dependencies anymore. Well, I don't know, Gaming Ledger. They kind of do. In some aspects, they have some differences, but those differences are not as divided as you guys want it to seem, because many of you refused that you were going to, take a look at, the Insomniac leaks. When Insomniac got hacked, unfortunately, these leaks were very telling as to exactly how PlayStation perceived Microsoft and how they perceive their business. They are already pursuing similar paradigms, except Microsoft claims another box is not our competition because they've basically made the move and shifted their business, to have the box as a complement, not a central pivotal focus. PlayStation has not made that move yet, even though they're dabbling out of it to eventually set up, the parameters, to set up the audiences, to set up the people to understand PlayStation brand outside of the box at some point. But PlayStation seems like they aspire to be here because when they finish their assessment, this conclusion, Sony's pillars are already dated and behind the competition, is one that shocked a lot of people. Let me go out here and let me break this thing down for you. Because this is the problem that we're seeing with a lot of the people that are analyzing, what Xbox is doing and what PlayStation is doing. Because Xbox is basically saying we're out of here in terms of making the move and shifting our platform reach, right? We still have our, console presence, but Sony concluding that their pillars are dated and behind the competition right here as a result of Microsoft being able to supply multi-game. That's it. So you see these two right here. There is a relationship between these two. There's a relationship between a lot of things, which if you read the beginning of the document, it tells you everything. Talks about Sony's subscribers, talks about PlayStation subscribers, talks about post-acquisition of Activision, the threat of day and date. They've basically gone ahead to demystify Call of Duty as a game that you buy. Xbox gamers are sitting here going, Call of Duty, yuck. Do you know why they can do that? Because it's not a big deal on the Xbox platform. Ew, Call of Duty. I don't like the campaign. They're spoiled. They're spoiled little brats. They're running around telling you, this campaign sucks. While everybody on PlayStation that plays Call of Duty or wants to play Call of Duty have to actually put out the 70 bones for the game. So you see, when they looked and said, well, they not only have Battle.net, Microsoft can supply multi-game subscription, console games, and PC games. Then they concluded that their pillars are dated and behind the competition. So Jez doesn't have to treat anything. Jez, as other journalists could have done, and some did, was one of the few that published this piece of the whole thing. So he's following what Sony actually thinks about their business. This is not about what you all perceive it to be, because what I've realized with the so-called PlayStation, talking base, is you guys are very good at denying everything that PlayStation says. PlayStation will literally say, oh, look, there's a cat falling from the roof over there. You guys will be like, PlayStation, it's a freaking rhino that's falling off the roof. You don't know what you're talking about. I've seen it happen. I've put in front of PlayStation, fanboys, video clips from PlayStation people, articles, quotes. Then they say, nah. Like Black Myth Wukong, it was in some of their minds, it was not money hatted by PlayStation. Even though Phil Rosenberg and Christian Svensson and Sean Benson of the third-party acquisition team of PlayStation all worked to support the game like they did other money-hatted games. PlayStation users swear that it's not the case. So we know that there's a cognitive dissonance that actually exists there. You said Xbox expanded to PC out of necessity due to declining console sales, shrinking hardware share, and then you said this. You were on point, and then you said, and a subscription service that requires scale. That is not accurate because they shifted to PC before the subscription actually was invented or put in place, called Game Pass. They had their Xbox Live and Gold, but Game Pass was actually launched in 2017. Do y'all see what's going on? So MBG's own thing and Jez Corden's own thing, all of the above, the final nexus, the thing that draws them together, right, is that PlayStation already understands where it's going. The problem is the fanboys don't want to know. For instance, this user again said, selective PC ports don't indicate a strategy shift as they are late-stage monetization for older titles. This is crazy. The PC port actually refuses PlayStation from doing its normal only on PlayStation, advertising. It's a strategy shift. In fact, not only that, the Xbox Live Service port, listen to me, the Xbox Live Service port is a strategy shift. As at first, they made it seem like it was MLB that wanted MLB the show, but then it came out that PlayStation wanted, Helldivers 2. So they shifted from a third-party influence, making them put their games on Xbox, to them putting their game on Xbox. The denial, and I've seen this among a lot of PlayStation pundits, that fundamentally PlayStation has not shifted its strategy. They claim this because in the 2013, in the June 13 talk with investors, PlayStation's executives say that they have not necessarily engaged in a fundamental strategy shift. So here's one of two possibilities. They shifted the strategy and never informed anybody. And so now they're just basically expanding upon the strategy. Or they haven't shifted strategy in word, but in action they've shifted strategy. So they're lying. Let me say it again. They shifted the strategy and nobody knew that they shifted the strategy. And I put 2020 with an asterisk. Do you know why? Or, right? And so now they're extending strategy. Or they're claiming that they haven't shifted the strategy and they're lying to you. It's either or. When I put 2020 in an asterisk, I'm looking at MLB The Show that not only went to Xbox, but went to Game Pass. And everybody said, oh, MLB wanted it. That if Sony had not signed the deal, they would have lost the license. But who forced them to put Helldivers 2 on Xbox? So either the moment this happened, the strategy shifted where they agreed, all right, we'll agree to have our games on Xbox. And so 2025 is just an extension of that strategy modification. Also, if you think about 2020, which single player game went to PC? Horizon Zero Dawn. And now everything else that's going is just an extension of that strategy. So all of us, either way, admit that PlayStation's current strategy is that they're going to put games elsewhere. They've said it. They're doing it. So people pretending like the whole PlayStation games just started showing up elsewhere is not some new thing because it's selective or whatever. This is being facetious. This is not being true to what the history is saying. It says the average person who wants to buy a game that they're excited about isn't going to wait potentially up to 3 years. Boy, you don't know what you're talking about. That's the average if you take all the non-gas PC ports to date to get it on PC. Well, Bloodborne, when you look at its sales in its first year compared to the sales later down the road, I don't think that actually resonates, just to be honest. Why? 4% of gamers, and this is data-driven. I'm not interested in so-called, there's data-driven conversations in gaming, and then there's the podcast fomented nonsense. That what he just said is literally what you hear when they sit in a podcast. I've listened to enough clips, and I'm just like, yep, those are the conclusions they draw from podcast. 4% of gamers, Ghost of Yote, was approximately 5% of the gamers who had access to it that bought it. That's it. Most gamers, they're busy on their platforms. They're not going to basically jump ship to go be a part of this 5%. Some of them on the platform that want to buy the game will wait for the game to be discounted to at least 50% or more before they purchase the game on that platform that they're on. So even within PlayStation, there are people who are scrolling through the PlayStation store. Let me be real with y'all. I did this when I was a PlayStation user. And looking at these games and going, they're too expensive. I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that. And waiting for a sale or a discount so that they can buy the game. So if you're saying that the people who really want to go ahead and buy these games have already bought it, they're a very small percentage that are willing to spend that amount of money up front. So the game actually going to other platforms benefits the game at the end of the day. And so he said, people keep assuming more platforms is better, but the actual market says otherwise. No, the market actually says that more platforms are better for you because you sell more of your games. This is not a conversation to be having, honestly. But it goes down to show that this is the premise of the PlayStation fanboy. That actually, in a sense, it really does, make you marvel as to how somebody can tell you that more is bad for a company seeking more and doing what it can to get more. Does that make sense? So basically, it's working. They want to keep people like you on PlayStation so that you don't want to go ahead and think about other options. And what it is you see that other people are getting these games, and you now realize that, oh, okay, it doesn't necessarily have the consequence that you think it should mean, but it actually does. And the consequence that it has is that it's going to basically line PlayStation's pockets with money. I'm sure they're mad at that proposition. Thanks for watching. Peace out.